All right, hey guys, what's up? Jaden here. So in this video, I will be walking you through the specific details of how we actually grew a local business site, and essentially, helping this company, this business increase its organic traffic. And I kind of I want to share with you guys the rundown of what are the specific things that goes into this campaign. And as you know, all my videos are not edited because I'm looking to do this for now. I'm looking to do it long term, and if I don't enjoy editing videos, so that's why a lot of my videos I post are all are unedited. So yeah, so that I can do it consistently, because every single time when I think about doing a video, if I have the thought of editing them, I don't think I would want to record any video. That's just for me. So I think a lot of times when I work on when I do SEO on websites, right, there's a lot of things that I learn and I am still learning, but some of the things that actually works, or the things that I've learned, I actually pretty much want to share this with you. So that's why I think this video is really going to be interesting, because I will try my best as much as I can to give you all the information that is that I've learned, that we have implemented on this campaign, because this is a really successful campaign. This is just one of the many campaigns that I've worked on. So let me give you a little bit of context. So this the profile. So every single time before we work on a website, right, from an SEO point of view, or just for okay, let me just get this chat, because I think there's a chat section, so in case you guys ask any questions, I don't miss out. All right, so let me see, can I close this? Okay, give me a while. All right. Okay, so where was I? So as I was saying, right, every single time we want to work on a website, the first thing that I usually do is determine the profile of a website. So what is the profile of a website? So a profile of a website can be, its type of website. So is it an e-commerce site? Is it a local business site? Is it an informational site? Is it a what else is there? Is it a multilingual site, for example? So that's the dynamic, the profile of a website. And then other profile types would be, is this a brand new site? Is this a relatively new site? So anything from, like, say, for example, 1 to 6 months, or even 1 to 12 months. Or is this site, has this site been a while, for quite some time? Is it a mature site, right? Because all these, the more information that you have, when it comes to SEO, at least you will know what things you need to do first, because some profiles of a website will determine where you will need to focus on. So for example, if it's a e-commerce site, and plus it has been around for a while, and it has a lot of pages, for example, so that's the profile of the site. One of the most important thing then you need to look at is technical, right? Because that's usually where most of the problems are, and that's where you want to tackle first. So this profile, it's a local dentist site, so they're in the dentist niche, which is one of the most difficult niche within any market or any nation out there. So dental, it's one of the most competitive ones. Not sure why, but I think a lot of SEO agencies just go after the dental market. So this is a website that has been around for quite some time. So they have been around since 2017, and then when we took on their project, when I worked on this project, it was around I believe it was 2020, when the COVID period was it was at a peak of the whole COVID situation. So back then, when I reached out to them, they were basically running paid ads. They are not anymore, and the main source of income, the main source of leads was coming was essentially not coming from, there were not many, but the main source is coming from the paid ads that they were doing, and they wasn't getting enough results. They weren't seeing a lot of results. Plus, because of the whole COVID situation, they were affected by the number of inquiries they were having, because a lot of people are not going outdoors. They most of the time are looking around online, and that's why, because they don't have that online presence, they are missing out a lot of the leads. So that is kind of the profile of when we took over, how their site was like. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to explain what we have done over the course of, I think this is 1 year plus already. This client has been to us for a year plus, and so on, and kind of explain to you what we look at, and then what sort of things that we prioritize, and also at the same time give you all these so that hopefully we'll be able to help you out when you are optimizing either your own site or other people's site. Just want to share it out there. So the first thing that when we took on the site, right, the first thing that we noticed is obviously the site didn't have any organic traffic. So this is a graph to show you. So let me just give you a before and after to kind of give you the results of the campaign. So back then, I believe it was around May to June when we took over the site. You can see in June, they were having, according to Ahrefs, they were having around 143. So obviously for Ahrefs, most of the time, from what I noticed, it's a lower estimate. So usually when you see Google Analytics, it's going to be a lot more than what it says over here, and that's just overall a good sign, because that means to say your actual analytics is going to be more, your website is actually getting more traffic, right? So in around June of 2020, you can see there were around 100 plus traffic, right? So this translates very well to their online analytics, because back then even their analytics was not set up properly. So so this was back in 2020, and you can see based off on that, the traffic had just exploded. Now a lot of times, one thing that we want to always do is we want to make sure that the traffic that we are getting, it's relevant, because even though, let's say for example in this video I mentioned, in the title you can see I indicated 73x traffic, right? But if that traffic is coming from from a place where it's not relevant to the business or to the website, then that is just a very good number to see, but it's actually not really going to help the business or the website, right? So what we have done is, you can see based off on this is a local dental site in Singapore, and you can see majority of the traffic, so 60% of the traffic is coming from Singapore, which is what we want to see, because that's where our target audience is, right? So if we are bringing in a lot of traffic from, say for example, US or UK, unless this business is is targeting people in the US and UK, then that will make more sense. But if it's not, then in this case it is not. So the main country that we are looking at, it's Singapore. So you can see, so if I go down to the Singapore version over here, yeah, you can see just the overall traffic, overall linearly it's climbing upwards, which is what we want to see. So you can see there's a dip here, somewhere here, and this could be because of a lot of reasons, but for me typically I don't necessarily look at just one single dip, because one of the things that I've learned when working on SEO campaign, it's don't focus so much when something is going down as much as don't focus so much when something is going up. So let me try to elaborate further. One of the issues when it comes to implementations, right? It's every single time when we see a traffic dip, right? That's where our alarm goes off and we want to try and fix something. But a lot of times I realize that as long as the things that you're doing, it's within Google's guideline, and then you're doing things naturally, or at least make it seem natural, most of the time you will see that the overall traffic will go up. Now that's first. And second of all, when it comes to a dip, when it comes to if a traffic dips, and all this that I'm saying applies to when your traffic goes up, it's the same, right? So when the traffic dips, right, there's a lot of reasons why it could be dipping. So it could be because there's a recent algorithm update, and it could be because Google is testing its update and they're just doing its thing. They are testing some updates, like for example the page titles. There was a update recently. They were testing there, and then based off on this test, essentially you could be following exactly what Google wants, but because of what they are doing, that's why there's a dip. That could be one of the reason. It could be because of ideally not, but it could be because of you were doing some shady tactics, like for example building a bunch of very lazy and non-quality spammy links, for example. It could be because there was a technical area where the hosting, the website's hosting went down, server issues and things like that, right? And it could also be because of real life events where, for example, if just in Singapore, for example, there was a few period where we had a what we call circuit breaker, where nobody can step out of their house. They have to be at home. Nobody can go out. They can only go out to buy lunch, buy your meals and stuff like that. So real life events like this do affect the way of how people browse and search for things online. So with that being said, right, the next thing that you could do is to find out exactly what went wrong, right? What went wrong. But from my point of view, if as long as you are doing things on a natural level, and you are following the guidelines and you're consistently doing things, you don't necessarily have to worry about it, because there's only two things you can do with your resources. And your resources, meaning to say your time or your money, right? So these are the two main resources. So would you rather spend your time and money to go and find out what exactly went wrong, or would you want to put your time and money to focus on building and growing the website more? So I will always, I know that the things that we do follow Google's guideline, and we do it as natural as we can, because we treat all these websites that I worked on, I treat them like my own. So that's why I always focus on growing and doing. It's kind of like when you're working out in a gym. If for 1 month if you have worked out for 3 months and suddenly there was a you're still not growing, for example, right? And then the last thing you want to do is sit down and then analyze exactly where it's not growing and stuff like that. You want to focus on continuously training and optimizing again, and then training again, and eventually, right, as long as you're doing all the right things, you will get there. So that's kind of how I look at things. And this is not just when the traffic dip, this is when traffic goes up as well. Because and also one more thing I forget to mention, that you could be doing everything right, but your competitors within the same market that you're working on, they may be spending a lot more budget. They may have got on hired a team, and that's why, because of that investment, they are getting more organic traffic share, and that's why your traffic share is dropping. So that could also be one of the reasons, right? So you can see that there's so many reasons for things to drop, and likewise there's so many things that causes your traffic to grow. So instead of that, what I like to do is I like to just focus on optimizing and growing the site, and focus on growing assets rather than looking at why the traffic dip, because that traffic dip could be so many reasons. Now that is slightly different from targeting pages that is losing traffic. So that is completely different. One, it's where we are trying to find out exactly what happened to the website in terms of why the traffic is dipping. The other, it's finding specific pages that we want to optimize for. So that's very different, right? Because the second one, when we look at a page and we want to find pages that we want to target, we are specifically looking for which page we want to optimize. whereas the other one, it's we're trying to find out exactly what is the reason, and if we find out the reason, um, it's if let's say for example it's not due to anything that we have done, or not due to anything that anybody has done, for example, then it's a complete waste of resources, a complete waste of time and money. So that's how we like to take things, how I like to do things. So with that being said, why was I talking about this for so long? So this website, basically now you can see their organic traffic is close to, I think it's over 10,000 people. There's more than 10,000 people, 10,000 organic traffic on a monthly basis. So essentially this means to say, they are not running any paid ads now. Their main source of traffic, their main source of leads are all coming from Google, from organic. And that it's very ideal. So you can see, the traffic is still continuously growing. And again, likewise, like I mentioned over here, the dips and downs and stuff like that, I don't really pay much attention to it. As long as linearly is growing, as long as it's dancing upwards, I'm perfectly fine with it. So this is the kind of traffic that we have helped the website achieve or gain or grew. And then when we take a look at the quality of the traffic, so you can see we don't just want to drive traffic that doesn't have a lot of commercial intent, because especially for a local site, we want to drive traffic that have commercial intent. Meaning to say, people who are in the buying phase, where they are ready to purchase, they are ready to sort out an inquiry and things like that, right? So you can see based off of the traffic value, so you can see the traffic value increased over time. And this means to say, if you don't know what traffic value is, this is just a rough gauge of, if let's say you were to be paying for Google AdWords, and you'll be bidding for specific keywords, this is how much you would be paying for this traffic that you are getting organically. If you are paying for them using Google Ads, this is an estimation of how much you'll be paying. All right, so let me hello, wait. All right, I'm back. So apologies for that. Because I was having a very important call. So yeah, for those who are rewatching this, just forward the video until here. So again, like I mentioned, for me to do this long term, editing takes a lot of time, and unfortunately, I don't have that time. So yeah, so apologies. Just skip all the way for the last, I think, 15 to 20 minutes. And then you'll reach here. So as there's somebody to chat. So hi Robin, hi Shahid. Yeah. So as I was saying, where was I? So we grew this website, right? To a point where essentially they are getting a lot of leads on a monthly basis from organic. So all these are email leads as well as phone call leads. So what just to reiterate what I was trying to do, I'm basically explaining this campaign that we have done for this specific website. So feel free to rewind, go back to the start, and understand the profile, the campaign, the details of the campaign. So I think let's get started with the things that we look at first. So the first thing that I usually look at is in terms of whether it's the site in a position where it's easy or difficult to rank, or difficult or easy to go after organic traffic. Because a lot of times, even before you implement any sort of things, with search engine optimization, it's not just ranking, because ranking is a very, very secondary metric that we look at. So obviously, ranking is one of the most common things people look at. But essentially, when it comes to SEO, the most important thing is to satisfy the users, right? And that essentially will help you build a better brand. Because if you rank number one, but the content that you have or the website that you have is not at a place where it can deliver the kind of content that the users are looking for, then that's essentially not going to help, even though if you are very high up in the rankings. So that's why when I work on a campaign, one of the things that I look at first is the website. So for this specific campaign, what we did is we first took a look. We didn't take a look at the website at the start. So at the start, this website was built with Wix. So there's a lot of things that I don't prefer Wix. So what you call it? Different builders have their own advantages and disadvantages. For me, when I'm working on the campaign, I always prefer to have a lot of control. So unfortunately, with Wix and with Squarespace, for example, these kind of CMS, I don't necessarily have that control if I want to implement certain stuff. So for example, if I want to change the canonical tag, right, for example, it's going to be a lot more tedious. I'm not sure if it's even possible, but it's going to be a lot more tedious on Wix or Squarespace as compared to WordPress. So this initial website, it was on Wix at the start. Okay, so that's first. And second of all, the design wasn't good at all. So the reason why I look at SEO and design together, because it's not just about getting traffic. It's about getting that traffic, building a brand, and then ultimately converting these traffic into a lead, right? Or converting them into a person that knows about that has a positive interaction with the brand, right? Because if, let's say, for example, if the website is not at a great place, but we are ranking number 1 or number 2 or number 3, right, in position 1, 2, 3, what's going to happen is the users will come in, and because they see the interaction of the site, depending on how well the site is built up and certain things like that, they're going to have either a positive or a negative experience with your brand. So the last thing you want to do is you don't want to have people interacting with your brand, coming to your website because you are in position 1 to 3, and then looking at your brand and thinking to themselves that this is not a good website, right? So that is a negative impact of branding. So that's why I always like to look at the start, I only work on SEO, but across the years that I've worked on SEO, I just realized that branding and website, anything that is to do with branding, right? So obviously website is one of the main things. It's really important as well. So for this specific campaign, what we did, like any other campaign, we focus on technicality first. So what we did was we went in and took a look at the technicality style stuff, and we actually implemented on page for this specific website, even when they are on Wix. So this is the reason why I say certain CMS, they have limitations towards implementations, because when we are implementing all these on-page stuff, say for example changing the page titles, changing the header 1 tag, H1 tags, it's very it's not ideal, because essentially the design of the page, for example, if you're changing one H1 tag, that means to say you're changing it on every single individual page on Wix, unless there's a better way to do it that I do not know of. But it's just very it's not ideal, because essentially what you're implementing is you're implementing on one page, but that one page gets duplicated to all the other pages that you have, which you do not want it to be that case, right? Because every H1 should be different, and you can't have different designs, for example. So that's why I always prefer to work with WordPress site, because it's a lot more robust. So all right, so let me answer a few questions. Let me answer a few questions here first. By watching your videos, I've started implementing on my client's website the way you talk in your videos. But the keywords when the niche is in doesn't have much keywords volume. So what should I do if the volume is not much? Should I go ahead and target those keywords? All right, Shahid, thanks for your question. So one thing that I look at is the kind of niche that you are in versus the kind of commercial value the keyword has. So for example, if let's say the niche that you're in is very small, so naturally the market, the target audience or the market share for organic will be relatively small as well, right? So in another niche, it could be over for a specific keyword, it could be over 1,000 to 2,000 people searching on a monthly basis. But for a specific niche market, it could be 50, 30, 50, or 60, or even 100, right? So what I would do is I would look at, if let's say the commercial value is high, usually it's usually that case, because if the search volume it's low, that means and the competitive and the businesses within that space is a lot, and if a lot of business are advertising, that means to say there's a smaller share there's a smaller market share, which means bidders will usually bid higher, because the opportunity will be a lot more lower to capture that traffic, if it makes sense, right? So if the volume is around 30 to 50, right, and if it's a very small niche, and this is after I've completed a complete keyword research. If I do an entire keyword research and the only keywords that I find it's low, then what I will do is I will then continue to target those keywords, especially if it's in a niche, if it's in a niche that is very niche, right? So that's what I'll do. So even keywords that has 30 or 50, if I look at the entire keyword research that I've done and there isn't any other better opportunities, I will still go after those keywords. Okay, and one thing, another tip that I can give you is you want to pay attention to the CPC. You want to pay attention to the cost per click. So if you're using something like Ahrefs, for example, they will show you the average an estimation of the cost per click, right? So what you want to do, right, is you want to look at those keywords that have less low search volume, okay, not that much search volume, right? And then you want to look at whether do these keywords have CPC. If they have CPC, that's a good indication to go after these keywords, because they have somewhat of a commercial intent. Because if they do not have commercial intent, people will not be bidding on these keywords. And the higher the CPC, the higher the commercial intent, which means a lot more businesses are spending more on this specific keyword, which means there's a high chance that this keyword it's a very what you call it, profitable keyword, right? So that's what I would do. So I will start off with a complete keyword research to find the possibility of these the possibility of keywords that I can target within that niche. And if I end up with, let's say for example, 20 keywords only, because it's a niche that is very niche, it's a very small niche, then I would look at those keywords and look at whether do they have any CPC. And then if they do, that's a good sign for me to go after them. If they don't, right? So most of the keywords doesn't have CPC in my niche. So if they don't, then what I would do is I would then step back and not look at data anymore, because that's where I will take a look at some logic of my own, if you will. So what I will do is I will look at a keyword and think if this keyword is there a commercial intent. So when the intention of that keyword. So what I will do is I will look at, say for example, if this keyword doesn't have any CPC, for example, and it's very low search volume, and what I will do is I will ask myself, is this keyword, what intention is this? Is it an informational intent? Is this a commercial intent? Is this an investigational intent, right? So if it's commercial intent, I'm still going to go ahead and target this. And again, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get the best opportunity based off on all the research and all the data that I have. I'm trying to make sure that I eliminate all those choice. I essentially eliminate all those, not eliminate, but I try my best to get whatever keywords that I best can within this scenario. So if there is no other keywords that have high search volume, if the keywords that I have doesn't have CPC, then I will drop back to understanding, what is this intent of this keyword. And a good way to do this is you can go ahead and type this keyword into your Google search bar, and you just want to look at those players that comes up, right? Because when you look at those results, usually they will give you an indication of whether is this an informational intent or whether is it a commercial intent based off on the results that you see on Google, right? And segues to another tip. You can always take the first two results, and you want to put that provided I would assume they are your competitors, and then you can put them into a tool like Ahrefs and then kind of see what any keywords they are ranking for. You can use their keywords, right? So that's what I'll do. And one more query I have, Jaden, for each page, how many keywords can we target? There's no specific number for that, and the reason why is because it really depends on every single individual page, which keywords you find is suitable to be clustered together so that this entire page can target them. So for one thing that I like to do, I always like to map one keyword to that specific page, and then try to find if there's any other secondary keywords that fulfills the same intent as the primary keyword. But overall, I still am ranking one keyword for that one page. Okay, that is my main target keyword, and then you have secondary keywords that go after that, right? So in terms of how many keywords you can target, one page can target one keyword. For example, one page can target 3 keywords, one page can target 50 keywords, for example. It really depends on the intention of that keyword, the variation of keyword and stuff like that. So I hope that answers your question. All right, so let me move on. So the first thing that we did is we implemented on page for its existing pages. So beforehand, okay, I'm going to show you the website now. So hey, no problem, Shahid. Good to help. So this is the website, and you can see it's a very simple design, and this wasn't their previous website. So their previous website, I'm not sure if I can show you this, but let me see if there's a version of their website that I can show you, and hopefully I'm able to show you their URL structure, because within this within this video, right, it's going to be quite a long video, and if I can't complete this, I'll try my best to complete this within all in one video. But if I can't, then if you'd like to see more, just let me know. I can maybe continue this, because I'm really doing this just to share the things I've learned, to share what works. So yeah, so let me see if I can bring up a version of the site previously. Hopefully there is a version of the site, because what I want to do is I want to go into the specific details, like what do we do for on page, what do we do for technicality, what do we do for off page, what do we do in terms of design and stuff like that. Because I think details are it's what is important. So yeah, so while what's waiting for load, I think it's yes, we would like to see more videos on SEO. Okay, awesome. So let me see if this loads up. Hopefully it does. But I just want to show you their previous URL structure. So based off on this, I don't think this is their, yeah, this is the one that we have already did for them. Oh, so that means to say we have been working with this client for close to 2 years now. 2000, wait, this is, when was this? Oh, this is 2020. Yeah. So we work with them since 2019, 20, 21. Oh, it's coming to 2 years now. Time flies. All right, so I don't have the earliest one. I don't have the design for the earliest. Yeah, this is their earliest, 2019 October. Yeah, because what I really want to show you is their URL structure. So yeah, I don't have that, but never mind. Let me try to recall, because before this, right, the way of how their URL structure was structured, like it's not the best, because their URL structure was, you know, it's not like now, for example, it is page one, or you know, those generic kind of URL structure. So that's one of the things that we look at first, because that is the only thing, that is one of the few things that we can change when their site was on Wix. So because their site was on Wix, there's only a few things that we can change. We can't really change, like, say for example, the entire site structure. So we can, and I think if I recall correctly, what we did is we went to do keyword research for all their pages to see whether if there's any pages that we can go after, that there is a keyword that we can map each individual page to. And then what we did was we can only do on page, because with regards to the content, right, we couldn't add in new content, because even if we add in new content, the design was just not at a place where it's good. So that's first. So what we did is I don't think we changed the URL structure. I don't think we changed the URL as well, because changing URLs on a Wix site, it's not very what you call it? It's not very how would I say? It's not the best way to do it, because when we change a URL on Wix, we technically need to change every single thing on the Wix platform, and we just don't want to interact with the Wix platform, because yeah, I personally don't like a website on Wix, because usually the template, the design is all the same. Usually by one look, I can tell that if it's a Wix website or not, because the templates are all the same. So the only thing that we did before we worked on the design of the site, we only changed its on page, meaning to say we only changed the page titles, we only changed the meta descriptions, and I think that's it. That's the only two things that we changed. And from that change, we managed to get one of the important page up to page 1 on Google. And I think that page was this page. It was this page, yeah, scaling and polishing page. So this was the page that we changed. And I think this is fluctuating between position 3 and position 1. So you can see a lot of their main keywords are in position 1, right? So to filling, you can see all those important keywords are in position 1, right? And then some of them are like dangling between 3, 1, 1, 1, 1, and then it did down to 3, 1, 3, 1, you know, and things like that. So they are in the top few positions. So you can see after we make the on-page changes, right? And I'm gonna try my best to see if I can squeeze this in within this video, because I have another meeting later, and I'm not sure if I can do this within this video. I'll try my best to. But you can see after we change this, okay, I think we changed the URL, because you can see the URL changes from this URL /services scaling and polishing. We change it to just scaling and polishing, right? And then it went from position 17, okay, and then it slowly crept up, and then it finally went to position 1. So this was one of the initial page that we worked on, and then it was showing really positive results just from on page. So wait just a minute, let me open something up. Yeah, I'll try my best to answer questions along the way, but because I don't want to break my chain of thoughts over here, so I'm going to yeah, so I don't want to break my chain of thoughts. So yeah, so basically that's what we do. And then when we finish optimizing all of its current pages, what we did was we then know that the design will definitely definitely have a ceiling cap on the number of growth this website could have, because the design was just not, it's a very templatized Wix website, right? So if you've seen Wix websites before, you'll know the typical templates they have. It's not really ideal. So that's where we suggested that, you know, in order for the site to really take off in terms of organic, we really have to change the design of the site. So that's what we did, right? So we proposed, the client said okay, and then we went ahead with that campaign. So what we did initially, even before working on the new design for the site, so you can see now my thoughts are jumping from here and there, because this campaign, when we started, it was, I think it's 1.5 years to 2 years ago, and the website is still growing, right? So there's a few things that comes in my mind, and every single time when the thought comes to my mind, I'll try my best to explain it. But even before we create the design of the site, right? We come out for the design of the site. There was a lot of things going on with their analytics. So their analytics wasn't working well, which is one of the first thing that you should be looking at, because the last thing you want to do is you don't want to work off on data that is not accurate or not clean. So as much as you can, try to make sure that your analytics and the data that you have in your analytics and your Google Search Console, it's as clean as much as possible. So what this client faced, what this website was facing, was I remembered that every single time when a person comes to their site, land on their page, it gets tagged as 2 visits. So for example, if I were to go into their page right now, I land on their page, it's considered 2 visits. So that is inaccurate. And how we know that is because every single time when we tried a real life test where we go onto the website and see on analytics, the live section, we will being tracked as a referral, which doesn't make sense because we are being referred by this page, which doesn't make sense. So yeah, so that's why analytics is so important. So make sure that analytics are tracked. So we fixed that. We fixed that, and then what we did was then we went in to suggest the design. So you can see this design is not the same, and I personally think that the design it's better than their previous one, but I think it can be when I look at it now, I think it can be better. But this is already getting a lot of results. So now I think I want to explain to you, there's a few elements that that goes through my mind, right? So first of all, I'm not a designer. I don't have any. I'm not a designer by trade, right? So there's only a few things that I look at when it comes to the design. And I think a lot of things that I think about, it's more so about reducing friction for the users as compared to having fancy stuff on the website. So my goal is to make sure, if I can have one goal when it comes to a website, is to reduce as much friction as much as possible for the users. And that's why the site, there's a few elements. So I'm not going to talk about the entire uh, design of how it takes place and the specific details, but more so the important part. So you can see we made the buttons the same color with the same call to action. So all of the main goal of the website we have already discussed with the client beforehand, and you should as well. So every single time when you want to work on a website, right, you have to determine what's the main goal of the site. Because if you are not sure about the goal of your site, you're not going to, a lot of things will just be I think that's nice, let's do it. I think that is not bad, yeah, we can include it. So it's not going to be very focused. So for this client, we specifically discussed that we wanted this site to generate leads either via emails or either via phone calls. So that's the two main goals that we want to drive, the specific action that we want users to take. That's why for every call to action, first of all, we make the call to action for this specific call to action. Okay, make appointment. We make this all the same color. And second of all, we make the call to action the same copy. So make appointment. So whenever people click on this, before they click on this, they will know that this is a button A. Second of all, this is a button to make an appointment. So the intention is very clear. So that's how we kind of decided that we want to go about for this design of the site. So that is one important part. So make sure that your CTAs are very clear, that people know that this is a button. And then secondly, it's what is that button for, right? So whether is it a free trial, get a free trial, contact our experts and things like that. So that's why we went with this. Okay, and let me see if there is any more important parts. So that is essentially one important part for conversion rate optimization, conversion rate, because again, the main goal is to make people, is to reduce friction for people. So whenever they see this button color, they will know that this is a make appointment button, and when they click on it, they will get redirected to a form where they fill in their name and stuff like that, right? Their preferred date, and this one all depends on the preference. So once that is done, what we then did was we then figure out, not just for this, also another side note, you always want to understand where your main demographics are coming from. So again, you can see that there's a lot of thoughts coming to my mind, and the reason why is, again, all these happens when we are working on the campaign, and and it happens during that point in time, and that's why now I'm trying to recollect, and the more I recollect, the more things come to my mind. That's why I'm sharing. So one thing that you want to notice, right, it's you want to, if you already have data, one tip I have is go and look at your analytics or go to your Google Search Console, and you want to find out where the users are coming from. Some websites, depending on, again, the profile, the portfolio of a website, you will see that some websites, majority of them will come from mobile, some of them will come from desktop, some of them will have both equally. And the reason why you want to do that is because then you would know which design or which versions you should be focusing on. So let me give you an example. If you are working on the site and you look at your Google Search Console and you see all of the data coming in are from, say, desktop, and the number of people that you have visiting your website, it's from mobile, it's, let's say, 10%. Then what I would do, it's again, because when you're optimizing for mobile in terms of design and also a little bit of SEO, if you only have a limited number of time, obviously with optimization you want to do as many as you can, right? But everyone will have resources constraint, right? Either time or either budget. So what you would do is, if your main traffic source, the people that is finding your website, is finding your services, majority of your demographics are people searching or landing on your website from desktop, then I will focus all the efforts on desktop. And if I have the extra time, then I will focus on mobile. So yes, even though mobile indexing is very important, but I think it's more important to look at the kind of traffic you're serving. Because if, let's say, we have a client that it's in the business market, and majority of their customers are coming from people who search on desktop because they work with corporate accountants and stuff like that, right? So these people are usually searching for information, and their behavior is usually coming from a laptop, right? They are searching stuff on their laptop when they are working. So mobile, not so much. So that's why, even if it's mobile indexing first, yes, that's important, but you really want to know where your visitors are coming from so you can better optimize your time and effort to optimize your website. So for this specific website, it was a split. So some of them are from desktop, some of them are from mobile, and that's why we figured, we need to spend a little bit of time on both. So for this, what we have done is we have switched the call to action around. So every single time when they search on an iPhone, okay, this call to action button becomes a call button. So they can just call just by pressing the button, right? So that's kind of the small little details that we do for the website. And again, it's not like a very, very, full-blown designer kind of site. It's just a site that it serves its purpose, and obviously we can make it better. I personally think we can make it better, but it does the job. It does way better than the previous design. So that is one, right? And then there's a few things that we go into it. Let me see if I can see if there's anything important. Not so much. So yeah, so essentially, because the website, we have decided that we only want to target two things: email inquiries and as well as phone calls. So that's the main two goals that we focused on, right? So on average right now, this website gets close to 80, I would say 70 to 80 leads every single month, and it has been consistently on every single month, and that is just from emails alone. Just emails alone, because we are not tracking the calls right now because of client preference. But just based off on emails alone, this website is getting 70 to 80 leads on a monthly basis, and it has been consistent quite a while. So yeah, with calls it's even more. So that is kind of like a little bit about the design. So now, once we have finished up the design, this part is very important as well, and I feel that there's a lot of things that goes into making sure that the website is at a place where it's convenient to optimize for. So one thing that we did was we kind of think about the URL structure, and we did keyword research for which kind of keywords that we want to target. So yeah, before I jump on, let me answer some questions first. Should we give importance to Google PageSpeed Insights? Whatever they recommend to change to bring the best score. Does Google PageSpeed impacts SEO rankings? All right. So I usually, so you see, the thing about optimizing, there's always things for you to optimize. So it's not so much about optimizing, because every single time, if your question is, should we optimize this, my answer will be yes, because why not, right? But it's come to a point where I realize it's not so much about should you optimize, but what should you be optimizing first. So again, this is all about prioritization, because if you have the time and if you have the effort, right, you would optimize everything, because obviously optimization is about improving and improving and improving. But with that being said, that's why it's more of a prioritization game in this case, because which ones should you optimize first and pay more attention to than other areas, for example. So in this case, for Google PageSpeed Insights, unless your website is not loading at an average speed, okay, so I think if I'm not wrong, the average speed is, I think it's 4 to 6 seconds if I'm not wrong. All right, so you can go and Google it, but unless the website is slow, then that's where it gets flagged up to me, and I will want to look into the Google PageSpeed Insights. If it's not, I wouldn't worry too much about it. So, and the reason why is because there are other things that I would rather work on, say for example, coming out with new keyword research for new content to drive more traffic, and things like that. Because obviously for website, the faster the speed, the better it is. Not just for rankings, not just for Google, but also for your visitors as well. So obviously that's the best case scenario. But if your website is not loading very slowly, it's not crashing, and it's just loading on an average speed, then it's really up to you. Do you want to optimize it? Because optimizing it surely will help, but do you have other things on your plate, right? So I hope that answers the question. That's yeah. Jada, is it possible for you to make a live video or tutorial on off-page SEO? It really helps few others like me on how to make off-page strategy. Yeah, so I can't. So I have to be honest. I can't promise you that, and the reason why is because you know, I don't have the time to make an off-page SEO video. If I can, I will try to, but I cannot make any promises, Shahid. So yeah, just want to be honest. So yeah, now let's go on with how we took the website, how we grew this site. So when we work on the design, after the design is done, so what we did was we then before the phase of the design, we already know what keywords we want to target. What are the main keywords that we want this site to target? And this is based off on the keyword research that we do. And we also verify all these keywords with the clients to see whether are these keywords that we are trying to target, that we picked out, suitable for their business, and whether do they offer these kind of services, because it needs to be a match, right? So that's what we did before we even started developing the site. And that's first. Second of all, we kind of decided how we want to draw each section of the pages, because when you're going through a redesign or when you're designing a brand new site, the best thing to do right now at this stage, even before designing the website, is to decide the URL structure, is to decide how you're going to store all your content, right? How you're going to store your About Us, how you're going to store your services, how you're going to store your blog post, and within blog posts you have different categories, how you're going to store all that, because that's the best time to do it. Once your website is live and then you have all this content out there, then it's a matter of management. So that's what we did for the site. We decided what kind of URL structure we want to go with. So we didn't go for a silo. We went for a very simple, clean URL structure. And back then, the website didn't have any blog post. So this is different now because we have created a bunch of blog posts. If we were to do it again, this is not how we would do it now, because you know, back then there was a lot of other blog posts. There was no blog posts, so that's why it's very easy for us to chunk all the blog posts under resources. But as of right now, they have blog posts on you know, this specific category. They have blog posts about this specific category. So what we would do ideally is we would then put all this into different categories so that it's a lot more cleaner for two reasons. Number one, for search engines to understand the relevance for each page for that main category. Second one is obviously for users to know or for users to navigate the site better in terms of UX. So that is what we did even before designing the site. And then designing comes into play, and then we rolled it out, and then we built the pages, and then that's done. So the next thing is during the creation for these pages, right? So if you have content already, or if you are thinking about redesigning your site, or if you're helping a client redesigning a site, I guess these are the things that you want to think about. So the one thing that you want to do is you want to do a content benchmark, because even if you create a website, even if you create a web page to rank for a certain keyword, right? So I'm going to show you an example here. So let's just say, for example, dental x-ray, right? So what you want to do is you want to make sure that, first of all, the content needs to have, this page needs to have content. Okay. Second of all, you need to make sure that the content is SEO optimized. Now, I say this with a little bit of caution, because you don't just want your content to be SEO optimized. You want it to be written for users, followed by optimizing it for search engine. So the main emphasis is users first, search engines second. Okay, and the reason why is because obviously it's kind of like a cycle, because if you optimize your content for readers, it's going to have a lot of positive engagement signals. Google will pick it up, and then they'll push you up your rankings, because your engagement signals it's good. It's going to push you up again, all these positive signals. So it's always a good thing to put users first and then optimize it for search engines. So with that being said, for this specific website, before creation of the pages, for this specific page, we already identified the main keyword that we want to go for. So for example, for this specific page, we went for dental x-ray. So this is the main keyword that we want to go for. Actually, it'll be interesting to see this specific. Yeah, so dental x-ray, so it's in position 5, and it's been fluctuating, I think, between position 1 and 5, and it's appearing for some other like wisdom teeth x-ray. So all those dental x-ray related stuff, right? So these are good signs to us. So the main keyword that we want to optimize for is dental x-ray, right? So for dental x-ray, what you want to do is you want to have some sort of a structure. Okay, you need to decide for what kind of content should be here. And wow, okay, so this is kind of a mouthful. So you need to decide what intention this page is. Is this a informational page, or is this going to be a commercial page? What is the main purpose for this page? Is it to serve information, or is it to convert people? So this also brings back one more step, and you can see earlier on, like I mentioned, a lot of thoughts come to my mind because all this happens then and there. So it's very difficult to document everything now. So one step before, when we do the keyword research, every single keyword will have its searcher's intention. So that's very important, because when you look at a keyword, you want to know whether the people searching for this keyword, are they looking for informational content, or they are looking for commercial content, because that is very important with regards to the kind of page you're creating. Let me give you an example. If this keyword, for example, is dental x-ray, right? And if we map this keyword to a informational piece of content, that means to say everything is about, what is dental x-ray, the meaning of dental x-ray, what does dental x-ray include, and stuff like that, right? Everything is about informational. Then there could be a mismatch, because when people search for dental x-ray, they are looking for a dental x-ray. But if your page is information about dental x-ray, right? What is a dental x-ray, or everything that is education about dental x-ray, then this page is not going to serve this searcher's intent, and it doesn't match the keyword, right? So it really depends on the keyword research phase. After you select that keyword, you need to decide whether this keyword, is it informational based, or is it let's say a commercial based keyword or investigational keyword, right? So obviously with every page there will be some information, but what I'm talking about is, where's the focus at? Is this page trying to sell a service even though it has information, or is this just a pure information page, or does it have a little bit of commercial intent there, right? Or does it have investigational content? So that is the part where we dive into to determine the kind of page that we want to create. So for this, this is a commercial intent, because one way for you to do it is you can go to Google, okay, and you can look at the kind of results that's coming up. So you can see based on the results, Healthline. So you can see this is kind of like a commercial intent, right? But straight after that, it's all dental clinics. Okay, so this is a local pack. So this gives me a few indication. And with regards to SEO, right, a lot of things is about getting more information to make sure that you're implementing the most viable implementation, so that the chances, the probability of getting organic traffic is higher. So in this case, you can see what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to gather signal to determine whether is this a commercial intent or a informational intent or a mixture of both, or which one is prioritized more. So you can see dental x-ray, this is kind of informational like, and then we have this is a commercial where people are looking for this specific x-ray clinics. That's why this 3-pack showing up. And then this is informational, and then we have our page here, and then you can see this is a clinic, right? And then learn about. So this is informational, and then this is service, right, where they are offering panoramic dental x-ray, and then this is kind of like informational. So you can see it's a mixture of both. So when it comes to a mixture of both, that's where I know that this piece of content, we definitely cannot create just a informational page where everything is about educational based content. So that's why there is a little flexibility here, because commercial pages are ranking. That's why we can choose to have this page as a commercial page. So with that being said, that's how we decided that we want to go after this keyword, because it has commercial intent, and we want to structure the design so that it answers and fulfills what somewhat of a landing page should do. So if you know how landing page works, landing page usually have some elements there to convert people, right? You can see their copy. First of all, their copy. Second of all, you can see their social what you call it, testimonials, trust signals, and stuff like that. So these are the typical things you see on the landing page, because for landing page, the focus of a landing page is to convert people to take a certain action, right? So that's why we included this within here. So you can see this is kind of like an explanation of why, or a selling factor of why our clients dental x-ray is one of the best. And then there's some FAQs here, and the reason why we have this is because, like I mentioned earlier, we want this to be a commercial, we want this to be a converting, right? So that's why we include this here. Now, if this is just a pure informational content, we're not going to have this here. We're not going to have this here, right? Because there is no reason for us to have a FAQ. There's no reason for us to have a one-stop dental x-ray provider for this specific search term, right? So that's why we include this here. And then you can see types of dental x-ray. So we merge informational together with our clients' services, right? So there's a mixture of both, because we want to sell in this page, and we also want to provide information, and all that is based off on that keyword research earlier on that I mentioned about. So yeah, so that is how we decided to do it. And then how did I divert over here? I kind of forgot. So now talking about the content benchmark. So you always want to make sure, again, earlier on, like I mentioned, content should be for readers first, search engines second. At least that's how I like to view things. And then when you write the piece of content, we got the client to write the content themselves, and we know I know that a lot of people write content on behalf of their clients, or on behalf of the websites they're working on and stuff like that. But we don't. I personally don't. And the reason why is because, again, if we are writing content for users, the best thing to do is, if we are not an expert within the field, we're not going to write the content, because we don't know what the hell we're talking about, right? So that's why we got the client to write the content. However, what we did is we give the client a detailed guideline. So this guideline has everything. It has the type of content that they need to write about, the number of words that is required, the terms that is required, the specific terms. Say for example, dental x-rays, it's a term. Let's say wisdom teeth is a term, for example, right? So we give them all these terms that they need, and you can, for me personally, I use Surfer SEO. If you have heard about it, it's an awesome tool. We use that almost on a daily basis. Yeah, and that's how we have our own internal content outline structure where we outline every single thing, and we basically just give the skeleton to our client, and our client fill that skeleton up with meat, right? And this is why it's important for you to have a content benchmark, okay? Because you can have a very beautifully written piece of content for your users, but if you don't serve it in such a way that search engines understand, it's not going to reach your users, because if the search engines don't understand, they're not going to push it up to, you know, the first few, they're not going to push your page up, because the search engines don't understand. And in return, the more that they understand it, the higher they will push your article up for that specific keyword that you're writing it for. So that's why this tool needs to come into place, and that's why we have the content briefs, and we provide our clients with that. So you can see over here, it's all even the specific FAQs and stuff like that, right? So that's why we don't only appear for this specific keyword, we appear for every type of variation there is. You can see wisdom teeth x-ray, wisdom teeth x-ray, dental x-ray, right? So all these wisdom tooth and wisdom teeth, even though they are the same thing, but the variations are different, and we are still showing up. So there's a few things that that goes into this, and we actually give this entire thing to our client. They fill it up, we help them publish it, and then we optimize this on page, which later on I will talk about. So over here at this period of time, right, it's still towards the technical area. I haven't mentioned anything about on page. I haven't mentioned anything about off page, because just by this section alone, it's so useful. Because think about it this way: if does technicality of a website affects SEO? Yes, it does. But does it stop you from getting organic growth? No, it doesn't. Right? You can essentially have your technical. You don't need to have technical stuff tied down for your website, and you can just work on page or off page. You still can get good results. But I always look at it from a way of, if your technicality, if your site is technically sound and set up properly, it's going to help Google understand your website a lot more. And whatever that you're doing for on page and off page and your content is going to receive a bonus, just because the technicality of your site is set up correctly. Google is able to understand it better, and this gives you a bonus for whatever that you're doing after that. Versus if you're just doing on page, off page, and other stuff, but you don't tackle technicality, you will still get a positive returns from that, but you're missing out on that part. So that's how I like to look at it. So that's why for this entire specific thing I mentioned about, it's a lot about technicality, and I don't think I've mentioned everything, because with that, there is a lot of specific things that goes into what is technicality. So earlier on, like I mentioned, there's only a few things that I mentioned, like the URL, the content benchmarking, the structure, the drawing of every single piece of content. Let's see, certain things like that, and I believe that there's a lot of things that I haven't mentioned that I don't think I have the time to do that. So yeah, in order to not make this video a 3 hour or 6 hours long video, right? So yeah, so that is for all the pages. So once we have set that up, once we have passed this content brief to our client, what we then did was we then move on to on page. So I'm skipping a lot of the details here just to give you an overview of what we focused on. So for on page, the one thing that we did was we looked at obviously the kind of on page page title. So when we look at on page, there's a few things that we look at, right? So again, for on page, likewise for technicality, there's a lot of details that I'm not going to go through. So I'm going to touch on the most important things first. So for on page, the most important things that we look at is the title, the description, and the header ones. okay, and the header one. So ideally, a general rule of thumb, you want to keep your page titles below 60 characters, 60, and you want to keep your meta descriptions below 155 characters, 155. Okay, the reason why you do that is because you don't want your page titles to look truncated. Okay, what do I mean by truncation? Let me take a look. So this is a bad example, right? So you can see, so I'm going to show you the bad example first, okay? And I'm going to show you the correct one. So the bad example is from our client's side. So what do I mean by truncation? Truncation, it's this, is what you see over here. This dot dot dot, okay? Is this what you see over here? So this means to say, whoever that is searching on Google, they don't know exactly what this is. Okay, versus this is not truncated. You can see the page titles over here. These are not truncated. Okay, so usually the reason why I say keep your page titles below 60 characters is because it's not so much about the characters that is making your page titles truncated on the SERPs, search engines result page. It's more about the pixel width, right? So the specific pixel width, I'm not too sure what is it. I think it's 512. I forget what it is, but I've always stick to 60 characters, right? Because every single letter, whether is it capital, caps lock, or every single symbol takes up pixel width, right? So obviously a W will take up more pixel width than a V, for example. So as long as most of the words you're typing in, as long as it's below 60 characters, usually they are below the pixel width. So unless Google changes it again, right? But as a general rule of thumb, 60 characters, below 60 characters, 30 to 60. So in this case, you can see even though we have kept this below 60 characters, it is still being truncated, right? Is it a very big thing? Not very, because first of all, as long as it's below 60 characters, that's one. Second of all, you know, our focus right now is just we rather focus on some other places than coming in here to check to change this specific page title. So obviously, again, should we optimize this? Obviously we can, but again, it's about prioritization. So for me, I would rather prioritize pages that brings in that have the potential to bring in more traffic or bring in new traffic, right? So that is one thing I'll do. So for on page, remember the page titles, usually if you keep them below 60 characters, you're not going to see truncated. You're not going to see truncation like that, right? It's going to look very clean. Okay, so that's what we do for page title. Similarly with meta description, and later on I will touch a little bit about how should you craft your page titles. Okay, because I've always believed that page titles and descriptions are not that simple. So that is for page titles. For meta description, it's the same, and you want to keep them below 155 again because of truncation. So you can see this is not truncated, and our client's one is, and this is not taking our clients the meta description that we have used. Okay, so just to give you an example of sometimes when you implement certain stuff, Google doesn't take what you have implemented and put it on the SERPs, and this is perfectly normal. Okay, so for one instance, you can see this is the meta description, and the meta description that we have included, it's in here, right? So you can see it's here. This is the one that we have made up, and this is the one Google has changed. Now sometimes depending on when you check, right, Google is gonna remove this, and they're gonna use ours, and then sometimes you check it back, it's not going to, and this is just how the algorithm is working stuff. Again, I'm not really what you call it, I'm not really bothered by this, and the reason why is because, you know, again, it's one of the things that once you've optimized it, you've optimized it to the best that you can, you need, the question that you should be asking yourself is, if you optimize this meta description, will it help you to get a lot more traffic, right? So my answer is, if we optimize this, the chances of getting a lot more traffic is very little. So that's why I won't bother too much, right? So so that's how I would think about doing things. So now that is for the meta description. So I'm running out of time because my call is about done. Hey Aaron, what's up? What's up? Yeah, so I'm running out of time, so I'm just going to briefly touch on the page titles as well as the meta description. I'm doing good, buddy. How are you? So the way of how you craft your page titles, right? So just give you a little bit heads up of how we craft a page title. So for page titles, usually what we do is we flush the main keyword that we're trying to target. We flush it all the way to the left. So you can see over here, this is the main keyword that we want to target. And then if you can, try to insert secondary keywords that you would want to target. So in this case, we know that we want to target teeth, we want to target tooth, right? So that's why we have teeth here. We also want to target cost, right? Cost here. So that's as much as you can. Try to make sure that the secondary keywords are there. Then primary keywords flush all the way to the left. And you need to make sure that the sentence is readable for human beings. Because again, for all copy, you have to serve human beings first before the search engines, right? That is the kind of like the compass of doing things. So that is for secondary keywords as well as how the copy should be written. Now, the other additional tip that I can give you is if you can try to make sure that your page titles it's click worthy, right? So there is a little bit of copy that goes into play where you have to sit down and think about how could you, with all those things that I mentioned earlier, having the primary keyword, having the secondary keyword, making sure that the sentence reads fine. How do you then how do you use all these words and think of a page title that is within 60 characters but still is able to capture people's attention, right? So that's why, you know, we inserted I inserted what is this called? A action check, right? So check is an action for people to take, right? So check x-ray cost for your teeth. Okay, so these are the few things that goes into play, right, for page titles. Now for description, it's kind of the same. So you can see detective problems with x-ray service. Please contact us for cost, type of x-ray, or any other information today. So if you can, try to insert your primary keyword over here. If you can't, it's perfectly fine because for meta description is not that much important as compared to the page titles. So if you can, a good practice is to have your page titles here and your your main keyword here, and then your secondary keywords within those here, within the description here. And also you want to have a call to action where it's, you know, contact us today, get more info. Or get more info is a very weak call to action in my opinion. So call for a free consultation or get a free 50% or things like that, right, where you're giving people something. So you want to include that with your description and make it click worthy, right? So that's why all of this is important for description. So last but not least, the last tip I can give about on page will be header ones. So ideally you only want to have one H1 in all your page, and the reason why is because for header ones, for the H1s, it's kind of like the title of that page, and you can't have two titles on one page. So some pages, they are doing well, they have two H1s and they're doing well, it's perfectly fine. But ideally you only want to have one H1s, so that again, this is all about making Google understand your website better, and the better they understand your website, the higher the chances of you appearing on Google's first page, in the first 3 position. So with that being said, I think that's all I have for you. And yeah, I'm going to go off now. So let me know if you have any questions. If you like what you see here, you know, have any questions, just leave them in the comment section. And then I will try my best to answer them. If not, that's all for today. Thank you so much. Stay safe and